Hello, nice to see you on my channel, Hearts and Shadows. Enjoy watching.
My name is Jameson, and let me just say this up front. When your ex-wife reaches out after 15 long years and says the words, "We need to talk," you better prepare yourself. Whatever comes next isn't going to be light. It's not going to be a simple conversation about old times or a random check-in. No, when someone who once shattered your world suddenly pops up with those words after over a decade of silence, there's only one thing you can expect: more damage. I knew at the moment I saw the message. My chest tightened. I didn't even need to open it to understand that whatever she wanted to say would shake something loose in me. You see, when someone has already broken you once and left without looking back, their return doesn't usually come with comfort or peace. It comes with the kind of truth you're not sure you want, but know you can't ignore. And that's exactly where this story begins. 15 years ago, I was a married man with a beautiful little boy. My son was just 3 at the time. I was also neck-deep in a scientific project that demanded everything from me: my time, my mind, and my energy. I was part of a small team trying to develop a system that could revolutionize how we detect plastic particles in human blood. It also meant long nights and longer days. Sometimes I would be away from home for weeks, months even, because we were pushing hard against tight deadlines and limited funding. I explained all of this to my wife, Valentina. I sat her down more than once and told her how much this meant, not just to me, but for our future as a family. And each time, she would nod, say she understood, and tell me to keep going. I believed her. Then one day, completely out of nowhere, a man walked into my lab. My wife's lawyer. I remember the confusion on my colleagues' faces when he asked to speak with me privately. He handed me an envelope. Valentina had filed for divorce. That was how I found out. My mind couldn't process or make sense of it. Divorce? I dropped everything and drove straight home. I didn't even know what I was going to say, but I knew I had to talk to her. I had to understand what was happening. When I got home, I saw her sitting on the couch. I begged her to talk to me, to explain why she was doing this. I reminded her that I never stopped supporting her and our son, financially or otherwise. Even while I was away working, I made sure the bills were paid, the house was maintained, and our son was taken care of. But she didn't even look at me with emotion. She just said, "From now on, speak to my lawyer." That moment broke something in me. Not just my heart, my sense of reality. I couldn't believe it. I thought she was angry or just overwhelmed. I refused to sign the divorce papers, hoping we could still talk things through. But she wasn't interested. Instead, she took it to court. And that's when the real nightmare began. In court, she didn't just stand her ground. She painted me as the villain. She twisted the truth, made me out to be some kind of negligent husband who abandoned his family for work. She never told the judge about the money I sent, the calls I made, the sacrifices I took for us. She made it sound like I just disappeared and left her alone. It was humiliating and painful to sit there and listen to lies while being unable to prove my side fully. The system didn't seem interested in nuance. She won. She got full custody of our son. She got the house. I was left with nothing but the clothes I packed from home, and the lab I worked in became my new home. I moved in full time because I had nowhere else to go, and honestly, nowhere else I wanted to be. My access to my son became limited. Seeing him go from something I could do anytime to a complicated legal arrangement made me feel like a stranger in my own child's life. But what stung the most was this: despite being pushed out of my own family, I was still ordered to pay child support. Every month. Like clockwork. The irony was suffocating. She ended the marriage because I was working too much, but still wanted the money that work brought. And the court agreed with her. They didn't care why I worked or what I was working on. They only saw numbers. I lost my family and my home, but I still had to fund the life I was no longer part of. The divorce hit me at the worst time, punching me when I was already on the floor. I was neck-deep in a research project that had already eaten up most of my savings. I'd poured everything into this system we were trying to build. But the problem was, for every failure we encountered in the lab, it wasn't just time we lost. It was money. And with every failed trial, It felt like we were inching closer to shutting down for good. There were days I wanted to give up completely. Days I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. But somehow, my team and a few family members kept me going. They didn't let me fall apart. They reminded me that what we were building could still matter. That my life could still matter. And deep down, I knew they were right. The betrayal started to fuel me. I stopped asking why she did it. I stopped trying to understand it. I just poured every bit of pain, anger, and confusion into the project. But it came with a cost. I shut myself off emotionally. For years, I avoided dating. Didn't even consider it. The idea of letting someone get close again felt dangerous. Like I'd be setting myself up to be shattered all over again. Still, I didn't abandon my responsibilities. I kept sending the child support money every month, even when I had to borrow or stretch what little I had left. It didn't matter how hard it was. That was still my son. Even if she made it nearly impossible for me to see him, even if she filled his ears with lies about me, I couldn't abandon him. I wouldn't. I had lost nearly everything and a big part of myself. But I held on to one thing. I wouldn't let her ruin my purpose. If I gave up on the project, then it really would have all been for nothing. So I kept going, step by step, in the dark. Then, one day, after years of setbacks, something clicked. The system we were developing started showing consistent, accurate results. It could detect plastic particles in the blood faster and at a much lower cost than anything currently in use. We triple-checked everything and ran tests across different scenarios, and every time it worked. I still remember the moment we realized we'd actually done it. I didn't cry, but only because I had nothing left in me to cry with. Word spread quickly. We got attention from the medical community first, then some articles in science journals, and eventually a major pharmaceutical company reached out. They sent a team, ran their own evaluations, and not long after, they made us an offer to buy the entire system. The buyout was massive. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I had financial freedom. I didn't have to live in the lab anymore. I could afford to start thinking about what life outside of work might look like. But just as I was beginning to enjoy that little bit of peace, Valentina, my ex-wife, somehow caught wind of the buyout. I hadn't spoken to her in years, outside of the child support payments I sent regularly. The next thing I knew, I was getting a formal request from her lawyer. She wanted more money, more child support. And once again, the system that's supposedly built to be fair showed me where it stood. The court sided with her. No questions asked. I tried to explain that I was already paying what was agreed upon, and I hadn't missed a single payment. But none of that mattered. Because in their eyes, I was the man, and she was the mother. That was enough. So, I had no choice but to comply. Even with all the success, even with my name now attached to a medical breakthrough, I still couldn't escape the weight of that past. After complying with the new child support payment, I began to think about something I hadn't allowed myself to consider in years: companionship. Not marriage. That word still made me uneasy. But I was tired of being alone. I just needed someone who could bring some warmth into my life again. I had been in survival mode for so long that the idea of sharing quiet mornings or just having someone to talk to felt like a luxury. So, I started putting myself out there, carefully, slowly. Eventually, I met someone. She was gentle, kind, and had this calming presence that made me feel like maybe not all love ends in betrayal. She didn't demand too much from me emotionally, which was a relief. I made it clear from the beginning that I wasn't looking to jump back into marriage, and to my surprise, she understood. We built something simple, peaceful, and for the first time in a long time, I could come home and not feel like I was walking into a war zone. It didn't erase the past, but it helped soothe the wounds. Still, while I was trying to heal and move forward, I tried to be part of my son's life, reaching out, checking in, and inviting him to spend time with me. But Valentina, she made it nearly impossible. She kept poisoning his mind, telling him things I never did, painting me like the villain in a story I didn't write. And the worst part? It worked. Every time I tried to have a real conversation with my son, I could see the doubt in his eyes. He listened, sure, but there was always that distance, like he didn't quite believe me, like he was trying to make sense of two completely different versions of his father, one from his mother's mouth and one standing in front of him. It hurt deeply. I wondered why he couldn't see that I was trying, that I had never abandoned him. I just kept showing up, quietly, steadily, hoping that one day the truth would speak louder than the lies. Soon he will be 18, and I'll finally be free from the financial chokehold of child support. Not because I don't want to support my son, I always have, but because my ex-wife exploits this situation to suit her. It's hard to explain the emotional toll that takes. The system never asked what I was going through. It just demanded that I pay. And I did, even when I was broke, even when I was barely hanging on. So here I am, still trying to put my life back together, still trying to heal what was broken. I am still hoping that my son will one day see the truth for himself in the coming years. Out of the blue, 15 years after our divorce, I got a message from Valentina, my ex-wife. It was a simple text. We need to talk. My mind went into overdrive. Was someone dead? Did something happen to our son? Was she sick? In trouble? The message gave no clue. I couldn't ignore it. As much as I hated to admit it, a part of me still reacted to her like it was muscle memory. I didn't want to waste time guessing, so I called her and asked, "What's this about?" But she didn't give me a specific answer. She said something vague like, "It's better said in person." Her tone sounded gentle, and that confused me even more. I hadn't heard her speak to me like that in over a decade. Now, she sounded like someone trying to make peace. I didn't know what to make of it. But despite everything, there was one reason I couldn't walk away from that message. Our son. No matter what kind of past I had with Valentina, I still cared deeply about our child. If this message had anything to do with him, I needed to know. So, against every instinct screaming at me to ignore her, I told her I'd come over. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I was about to find out. When I walked into Valentina's house, she was warm and welcoming. For the first time in 15 years, she greeted me with a kind of politeness, almost like we were friends catching up. She asked if I wanted something to drink or if I was hungry. I told her I wasn't hungry, not thirsty either. I just wanted to know why I was there. What could she possibly want us to talk about after all these years? We sat down, and for a moment she just stared at me. It was like she was trying to find the right words, or maybe she didn't know how to say what she'd been carrying for so long. Then she started talking. And let me tell you, I wasn't prepared for any of it. She told me how, during our marriage, my long hours away left her feeling abandoned. She said it was like I had checked out of the relationship. And I get it now in hindsight. I get that my obsession with my work hurt her. But that wasn't the whole story. She kept talking. According to her, she first suspected I was cheating. She said she couldn't stand the thought of me being with someone else, even though she had no proof. And instead of talking to me about it, she let that jealousy take over. That's when she started cheating. It wasn't just a one-time mistake. It became a full-blown affair. But then, as the affair went on, she realized that I wasn't cheating on her. I was just working. By the time she figured that out, she was already deep in the affair. It was too late. She told me that's when she made the decision to divorce me, to end it all. And the worst part? The man she left me for turned out to be nothing like she had hoped. He was abusive, but she couldn't come back. Then, she told me she had cancer and was dying. She told me that this confession was something she needed to do before she ran out of time. She wanted to clear her conscience. She said she was sorry for everything. She admitted that I had done nothing wrong. It was all on her. She had been the one to destroy our marriage, to ruin everything. And there I was, sitting in front of the woman who had once been my world. She wanted me to let go of everything, to forgive her. But how could I? All the years of pain, the years of being alone, of losing everything because of her. The anger inside me was bubbling up, but I held it back. I wasn't sure what to say or how to even begin to process what she had just told me. I asked her, "Did you ever think about what this did to our son? What it did to me? You tore our family apart. You didn't care about the consequences of your actions. You were selfish. You were so wrapped up in your own pain, your own issues, that you didn't stop to think about anyone else. I didn't care about the cancer. I didn't care about her apology. I didn't care about the time she thought she had left. None of that mattered. What mattered was that she had destroyed my life. She had taken everything from me and left me with nothing. If not for the people who encouraged me to keep going, to keep my head above water, I don't know where I'd be. I might have spiraled into depression, maybe worse. When I got back home that evening, I sat on the edge of my bed, my mind going back to everything Valentina had said. For 15 years, I carried this quiet guilt in my heart. I thought I had failed her somehow, that it was my fault the marriage collapsed. That was the story I'd been telling myself all these years. I had no choice but to accept it because she never gave me any explanation. But now, after all this time, I know the truth. She was the one who cheated. She was the one who broke our vows. She was the one who decided to throw away our family. And even after hearing all that, I can't say I feel any better. You'd think finding out the truth would give me peace. But it didn't. There was no closure, just a bitter confirmation that the pain I carried was intentional. And no, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I forgive her. I don't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. People talk about forgiveness like it's a switch you just flip. But if you've never had someone tear your life apart and then come back over a decade later with an apology soaked in regret, you won't understand. Forgiveness isn't cheap. It takes time. And sometimes the wound runs too deep. The only thing that matters to me now is my son. I'm still trying to build something with him, to be present in his life even if it's late. I know she poisoned his mind against me. I know he looks at me sometimes with eyes full of doubt. But he's almost 18 now. He's old enough to start asking his own questions and seeing through the lies. My focus is on being there for him, whatever that looks like. To everyone watching this, I won't pretend there's a moral to this story. There's no big lesson tied up with a bow. Sometimes life just doesn't compensate the person who was wronged. Sometimes the villain walks away with the house, the child, and the story that makes them look like the victim. But at least I didn't let it destroy me. I didn't let it end my life. So here's my final advice to anyone listening. Pray. Pray hard not to marry the wrong person. Because marrying the wrong person is not just a bad decision. It's a punishment. One that keeps on giving long after they're gone.